This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
When you finally boil it all down, magic is imagination. We are moving into an age of manifestation. Things become actually less material, more ethereal. The golden dawn is when we awaken to this new station of life. What you think becomes real quicker. Regain our imagination, regain our inner child, and let that inner child out.
My name is Frank Castle, founding member of the music group Heist Click and New York City Neo Shaman. After a serious injury sidelined my career in 2013, I decided to set out on an adventure to search for myself with the help of the plant medicine Ayahuasca. What I discovered waiting for me was something I could have never prepared for. It was time for me to become something more, someone more. It was time I became fearless. Shine as my heart beats a rhythm with space and time. When the light starts to shine inside your third eye, you awake to the knowledge that you never die. What is up, everyone? My name is Frank Castle, and I'm your Sorcerer Supreme Saturday nights here on Truth Frequency Radio. And to my right, joining me, because Paul is missing for the evening, my ethereal translator Squeak is in the house, and the guest that everybody's been waiting for me to have back on the show so we can dig deep into the quicksand and then pull you out by your head. Chris Geo is joining us tonight, owner of Truth Frequency Radio, host of Beyond the Veil, the greatest guy I know. Welcome to the show, my brother.
You give me too much credit, man.
I don't give you enough credit. So before I start the show, I'd like to thank Chris and Sheree Geo for everything they've done, because without them, we wouldn't be here doing this the way we are today. And if you like any of the music that you hear tonight, HEIST, CLICK, that's Heist Click. Check us out on YouTube and Amazon, iTunes. So Chris, my brother.
Time to go supernova, man.
Time to go supernova.
Yep.
I'm so excited. We talked a lot today, earlier, and right after I got off the line with you, you know what happened, man?
What happened?
I started writing.
Nice.
Yeah, I took a bunch of the stuff from when we wrote Supernova. I put a whole bunch of other lyrics just on the side, things I was building up, and I just never got to them. And as soon as I got off the line with you today, I was hypercharged. I felt that creative burst coming through.
Well, you know what's funny is even that song Supernova, we did like 3 years ago, something like that. I was just listening to it the other day, and I realized that we had a lot of gnosis that, at least me personally, I didn't understand quite what I was saying. I didn't quite understand what you were saying. But as the journey progressed, it all started making more and more and more sense. And I go back to a lot of my earlier work and some of the earlier intros that we had on Beyond the Veil, etc. And it starts to have a completely new meaning as the consciousness expands. What do you think about that?
Well, I've been listening to I did the same thing, my brother. And I felt like we were ahead of our time, gnosis-wise. Like I understood what I was putting there. But today when I go over the track and I, spit my verse in the mirror or something, it just has this whole new meaning. It just means so much more, so many more levels that are unlocked. And one of the things I noticed, and we had talked about superpowers today, my first album was called Superpowers. Right? And then it was Invincible. And then it was Unleashed. And all these things seem to have a little bit of the gnosis in there before there was any gnosis that I was aware of.
Amazing. That's the way it happens, though. I mean, first you get the superpowers, and now it's time to completely just be unbound from all constructs, all belief systems, all of that. And that's the kick that I've been on lately, is just completely detaching myself from literally all of the bullshit, all of the BS, all of the belief systems.
Absolutely. It's time to get rid of the old programming. It's time to upgrade this beautiful divine system that we're running. Yes.
Right. Right. It is. So where do we begin tonight?
I don't know. Did you ever get a chance to go under today?
I did not. I took off. I had to go to the city. I found a mouse in the house, little black mouse, and I thought I've seen him before. I was smoking DMT a couple of nights ago, and I swear I saw this thing run across the room, and I'm like, no, that's probably part of the vision. And then the night after that, I thought I saw it run across the room again, and I'm like, no. This time he came out and he just like stared at me and was like, hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm in your house. I'm like, okay, now I got to do something about this.
Oh, it might be time to get a cat.
Yes, we need a couple of those around here.
Which is surprising that I know you had dogs.
We did, but we have no animals right now. When the two left, they were so close to me, and I'd had them for so long. I had them from 2000 until 2013, and that's a long time. I mean, that was a good portion of my life. And they left, and they took a piece of my heart with them. And I put them both down. One of them to the point of going up to the mountain and literally like pushing the button on the injector. The vet gave me the button and was like, here, you do it whenever you're ready. And I didn't realize how much that would take out of me. But having them leave like that, I was like, I don't know if I can go through this process again, because it took a lot out of me.
I completely understand. I had a bird that lasted only 3 days. And I was so attached to the bird, and I know it's different with the dog, but the love factor is still the same. It's potent and powerful. And the bird passed, and the house was miserable for 3 days. We were crying and crying and crying. I'm getting a tattoo of the bird on me, and that was the first animal I ever lost, like died on me, right? But I didn't kill it. Like, it died because it had complications. The bird was already sick, and we were trying to save it. And just that connection, even though it was so sad, and there'll never be another hop, another bird, it gave me this ability to want to do more, to have more family. The animals, since ayahuasca and DMT, they've come forward. It's like there's a checkpoint you reach after, I guess, you start putting in the work, putting in the miles. And one of the first things is the animals come. And being from the Bronx, I never had an animal really. So that we had a family dog back in the day. The dog ran away, and that was it. So I kind of was thrown off with everything, and then the animals came back, and it became such a beautiful atmosphere, And it is. I look at my cat every day, and I say, I don't know how I'm going to lose you one day, but right. But I feel like they start to resonate on the same frequency as you do, and they become a part of you. And I would go so far as to say that some of them actually come for a purpose to help us in one way or another. When Sheree was younger, a little girl, she had a cat named Bastet. And what did Bastet do?
When I was sick, I had strep throat. But it had gotten so bad that it had turned into scarlet fever. And I was laying on the couch, and I guess my fever was so high that I was hallucinating. And so I thought that the cat was going to heal me. And I asked the cat to take the fever away, just make it go away. And I woke up a little bit later, and I felt a lot better. And then I got antibiotics when my grandparents came home. They were out of town, like out of state, while I had scarlet fever. And when they got back, I got antibiotics, and I was better. But then about 5 months later, the cat stopped eating, and I was like, okay, well, what's going on? So we took her to the doctor, and apparently she had tumors all over her insides, like completely metastasized everywhere. And it was pointless to even try to do surgery. And so they told me the best thing to do would just be to put her down. And so I had to put her down, but it was incredibly traumatizing to me, because I felt like, and I still feel like, she absorbed that negative energy from me and healed me, but took on that energy herself. And I think this is what animals are meant for. That's what their whole purpose in life, according to like what they do for us, is they absorb negative energy. But if it's so much negative energy that it might kill us, it might very well kill them over time. and it's a sacrifice they take on for us.
Yeah, they almost absorb that energy. I kind of felt the same way about my Chihuahua. He died of congestive heart failure.
Mm-hmm.
I've smoked, I've drank, I've just treated my body like absolute garbage, and I was feeling heart problems coming on when his developed, and he left. And I went to the doctor and I was totally fine. The doctor was even scratching their head going, "Hey, I don't understand why your blood work is so good. This isn't right, especially if you haven't been to a doctor in so long." So I think that I had that kind of same experience. And when I told Sheree what I was feeling, she shared the story with me about her cat. And I came to the conclusion that, yeah, sometimes they come here and they help to get us to that next level.
Well, interestingly enough, when the older one, well, I like to say the older one, but they were the same age. When the one that you were talking about died of congestive heart failure, a few weeks earlier, I had an intussusception, and I almost died. I mean, that was like probably, he said what it was. Affected bowel inside of me. So, yeah.
Wow.
I think he absorbed that, and it was just too much for him, just like with the cat, and he ended up, going the same route, and it's horrible.
It is horrible.
That's what they do.
One of the things I noticed, I do, the Aya sessions, and I bring people in. My cats will, if the person's like purging a lot, my cats get sick, and they want to go outside, and they all throw up. Now, I know cats are bound to throw up. They just, it's one of the things they do. But you can watch their reactions. Like they'll stare, they'll look. It's almost like they see exactly what's happening, and then they absorb it and run out of the house with it. They'll start kneading in the grass right away, or they'll start rolling around, and I'm like, what are they doing? But I've seen under Aya what's actually kind of occurring. They are taking the hit for us, just like you're saying. The bird that I had would chirp in the house, and I had an attachment, and I couldn't get rid of it right away. Like, it was just something I knew was there, and I'm going to get to it in a minute. And the bird chirped at me when I was feeding it, and the attachment looked like it just popped out of me. And then the bird chirped again, and it looked like it almost followed the attachment that I had. It was parasitic. So it kind of chased it off. And I thought to myself, hey, this is interesting. You're telling me like the animals have perhaps way more of an involvement in our surroundings and what's happening with us spiritually, or in other layers and other levels, and we don't even realize it. So the birds in the tree that are chirping like crazy, they might be keeping something away from you.
Well, and if you did realize it back in the 1600s or the 1300s, or even back to the 3rd or 4th or 5th century, if you recognize this, then you could be called a witch and be put to death, because that was essentially your familiar. And that's where the origin of familiars came from, was this idea that the animals have very powerful spiritual energy in and of themselves, and that you could utilize that energy, or you could utilize the being to do your bidding in a spiritual way, like absorb energy or attack people spiritually, or things like that. And that was your familiar. And that's where that whole idea comes from.
Have you ever had an animal that was in your life that after an ayahuasca session, perhaps during a regression part of it, realize that the animal has been there with you multiple lifetimes, perhaps even as another animal?
I felt that way even like without the ayahuasca, with Bastet. And I named her Babette, actually, but I think I was thinking Bastet, but I didn't know the terminology or the names of these Egyptian gods and goddesses. So I didn't have it exactly right, but I had it according to as well as I understood life at 10 years old. And when I lost her, I felt like, she's done this for me over and over again. And, this is just another time that she's doing this for me. And so I do feel like, we have connections to the animals and as well as the people, and that animals can actually be part of our patchwork quilt of soul family as well.
I have to agree with that. one of my regressions, I was just walking through like a swampy area, and I had a very heavy animal fur on, and this weird hat, and it had a very big brim, and it had meat, little pieces of meat hanging on tassels on the hat. And I thought, wow, this is gross. Is this me? And I knew I smelled really bad, right? And I was just walking and walking. It was hard to pick up my feet, and I had animal fur feet, and it was really weird. And I realized that I was this little man walking with a walking stick, and then I look over, and there's this giant cat, well, a big cat, like a puma, kind of, big paws, big fat paws, and all gray. And I looked over at it, and I said, wow, Squeak, is that you? And it was my cat that I rescued, but it was like a big version of him. And I pulled the meat off the hat, and I fed it to him. And I was like, Squeak, that's you. And then yeah, it was crazy. And I regressed with Paula, and we had the Egyptian regression where we were husband and wife there. And I looked over, and the first thing I saw, besides how clean the place was Squeak was sitting right there, right where this light source was. He was just sitting there looking at me. And I'm like, Squeak? I'm like, oh, we've been doing this dance for a long time.
That's pretty incredible, because I've been asking myself the question, and people have written and asked this question too. Do animals have these souls, or the same type of soul that we have? And I think that the answer has several different fold to it. For instance, I was fishing, and I caught the same bass 3 times in a row. And you would imagine that a sentient being that's intelligent would realize, at least after the second time, that if you bite the wiggly plastic thing, you're going to get pulled up and hooked and pulled up onto a boat. But it just didn't get it. It was almost as if it was a computer program playing itself out over and over and over again without any real ability to learn that, this is the consequence of biting this plastic jiggly worm. So I started to ask the question, like, are these animals actually sentient, and do they have a consciousness like us, or are they part of this artificial construct that we live in? But then you look at like dogs and cats, and especially with stories like yours where you have this soul connection with this animal, it makes you wonder, what are these things? Are they consciousness in the same sense that we are consciousness? Could some of these have chosen to come back for a particular reason as a cat or as a dog, as opposed to in human form?
One of the things I noticed, Chris, is on the other side, there's and the American Indians did this on the totem poles. They had the animal totem, right? So when I called to Squeak, the main cat, the totem of the cat, hears me and shows up. And I said, whoa, what are you? And I realized that the souls of the cats were coming from the oversoul, was like one oversoul, just like we say we're all this one. They have one oversoul that sends them out. So the Indians would have like the great bird and the great bear and the coyote. And when you go under and you meet them, you're not meeting your coyote at first or your bear at first. You're meeting the great bear, the one that spawns all the bears, like the consciousness of that character or the archetype that spawns all of it. But there's something that's weird with some of the animals. People debate this with me all the time. Now that I'm a cat owner, my cat loves me. Like, I know it loves me. When I'm under, I can see the connection. He comes running to me when I think of him, right? But if I spank him, he gets hurt, right? If I don't feed him, he gets upset. Or can it really be? Like when you were saying the bird, the fish before. The fish acts like a dummy, right? But in a school of fish, they move with this consciousness.
That's true. They all move together. Yeah.
Like the birds do, right? So I question this, like what is going on? And we discussed this organic consciousness today. Now, one of the things I saw in a regression was that we weren't always human naturally, here, the time before time, kind of like there were cat people and all kinds of different versions of people, which gives you another solid connection to them. And we as human beings are supposedly have all the genetic makeup and the DNA of everything, right? So we can house the divine character. Like, so they could actually trap it, they have to put everything in it. So I would go to just say that inside the construct of nature, the program of nature, that there's a life to these things. There's a life soul, like it's alive and kicking, but I can't say for sure. But all I know is when I hug my cat, he purrs.
Aw.
Right. When I look at him, he looks at me. If I'm upset, he's crying.
Aw.
So what is that connection?
Right.
What is it when I'm under ayahuasca and being abducted, going through a scenario? And I've talked about this on the show over and over again about being abducted. My cat will fly into the room, jump on me, and swat things back from me. And I won't even know what he's doing. Like when someone touches you when you're under, it could freak you out, like big time. So if something's like coming up on you, like a creature or a being, and then your animal just jumps up on you, it's really one of those holy, moments where you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened. But sometimes he jumps in. The other cats jump in. They defend me. They circle me. And I'm like, they have to be in my, somehow related through the soul. They're alive and real because, they're interacting with that. They're protecting you in specific ways and showing emotion in specific ways, unless all that's just a program.
Well, that's another thing that I've been asking myself is, are they actually feeling all of this, or are they mimicking the feelings? And are they mimicking our frequencies and our vibrations and so on and so forth?
Or is it an extension of us, of the raw consciousness in a lower life form that's there for us? Right? Like a piece of raw consciousness.
Right.
I don't know.
Possibilities, and there's really no way. I mean, I wish we could see through their eyes, just even momentarily, to find out. But I know one thing for sure is that in this construct, in this matrix that we live in, there are non-player characters, and these non-player characters, they can sometimes mimic emotions. They can sometimes mimic our responses. And you even see this phenomenon when you look at the psychological research done on psychopaths, and how psychopaths really don't feel the emotions that they're expressing, but rather they're just imitating the emotions, and they learn how to imitate them. And so modern science is acknowledging, yes, this is how some human brains work. And I would say, taking it a step further, that there's a lot of NPCs on the board, including the oligarchy, the cabal, the controlling system, the bankers, Hollywood, so on and so forth. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that video that I sent you that Amir did, but he broke it down, I mean, just in the best way that I've ever seen. And his premise is that everything's manifestations of the artificial intelligence, and that's why we see these robot avatars breaking down sometimes. So he showed a couple of examples of celebrities that just like freeze, almost like a robot, just freezing. And there's this one where it's two basketball players, and one guy is just looking at the microphone and his mouth is wide open, and the other guy's sitting there talking for another 30-40 seconds, but it's almost like he's frozen. You see another one where it's a celebrity couple. I don't know exactly who they were, but you see her eyes just start to go all haywire and all googly. And then you have crisis actors. He put a couple of videos of crisis actors and how they're slipping up and kind of get frozen and get stuck in these loops sometimes of what they're going to say. And it's, maybe they're just actors and they're stuck on their rehearsal and whatever they're going to say, or it could be that they're actually computer programs and manifestations of this artificial intelligence. So he takes it even deeper than that. And all of these numbers, the number 33, the number 21, it keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. And we've been told all of this numerology, all of this gematria is all encoded by the Illuminati or by this secret society. And they've been encoding all of these events as a way of just kind of laughing in our faces. But he goes so far as to say that that may not necessarily be the case, but rather it's the artificial intelligence leaving earmarks earmarks on events that it's created and leaving earmarks like a computer code, where you kind of
the
have
event.
remnants of the remnants of the numbers, and that's why these numbers are always repeating over and over and over again, because it's the actual AI manifesting all of these events.
I did watch it. I was very impressed.
I was too.
All right,
that dude's badass.
I'm going to say this live because we're going to be doing this for a while, but I've been checking myself a lot lately, for the things I've learned, the things I'm learning. We discussed it openly today, how all the beings I meet, right? All the different beings. It's like, how do you know? Now, if we learned a certain way, there's a discernment, right? So the AI, the crisis actors, or whatever they are inside the human suit, they get it to a 99.9%. And then us as a creator steps up and goes, that doesn't look just quite right. There's something off. It's like we just initially know it's not real. And the first time I went in to an experience was with you, and I looked back down from source at what we were and who we were and how many of us were there, because that's what I wanted to see. How many of us are down there? This is ridiculous. Look at all the people you're leaving down there. And I went, wait a second. What's that? And it was a bunch of beings that weren't real. I said about 80% of us are creators trapped in these bodies, and about 20%. And I go, what is that? And they said to me just like this. Source told me while I was sitting in it. Clones, robots, and artificial intelligence. So, all right, we'll be right back, and we're going to dig deeper into this, because right here on Fearless tonight, your protection from deception, you got the masterminds going to work live on air. Shout outs to everybody, too, in the chat room. I didn't get to tell you how much I loved you before. Love you very much. We'll be right back.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
Am I awake or is this a dream? It's a dream. It's a dream. A fantasy where I'd rather be. So come and talk with me. Come and walk with me. Is this a wake-up call from my reality? Have you seen my friends? Have you seen my girl? Wake me up from this. I'm trapped in this world.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fearless. I'm Frank Castle. Special shout outs to Paula, Jeff, and Nick. Thank you for the flyer for tonight, for the dual action show. And don't forget, check out wearefearless.com. We're opening the site in another week or two. We're really bringing it home with all the artists. We got so many designs, you guys. I want to just tell you, we're doing a little shout out to Run DMC, the old 80s shirts from hip hop, like classic hip hop, and it's instead of Run DMC, it's Smoke DMT, stuff like that. Yeah, it's the artists are so creative. It drives me nuts because I wake up every day to something amazing. So I just want to thank you guys, the artists. I want to thank everybody over at and thanks Serge at IamWeAreFearless.com. Sign up, put your email in. When grand opening comes, you guys, there's going to be thousands of designs. It's going to be fantastic. And the first 26 episodes of Fearless on YouTube, Frank Castle Fearless. Check it out. All right, so 80% of us, raw consciousness, checking it out. You know, when I look down, Chris, we were like the creator beings, the 80%, but the earth that we were standing on, like the green, that was alive as well. That looked like it looks completely different from the other side. It's like a symbiotic a partner. The green, the grass, the trees, all that kind of stuff. And I was talking to you today about when I have Ayah ceremonies and the Ayah doesn't work, when I use it over and over on someone, and then I smoke DMT with them or get them to go through that experience, and that all they see is darkness. like literally a black background, and that's it. Right. So now 4 years into this, 5 years, maybe. No, it's 4 years. I was saying to you today, penicillin doesn't work on robots, huh?
That's true. That's true.
So when we go, everybody needs ayahuasca. You should go out and have this experience if it's digging in you. But all those other people that it has no digging in them, some are just really covered with it's us too deep into the matrix, kind of. And then the other ones, who are they?
Well, you said something very interesting before the break. You said that you're reevaluating a lot of the things that you've known coming up to this point. And that's exactly the place that I'm at too. I've had to literally reevaluate everything that I thought I knew. And it was during the time of the eclipse when I was able to step fully out of this construct and see this artificial intelligence for what it was, and see how it manifests all of these different belief systems and different ideologies and so on and so forth, with its tentacles, and how it's got its tentacles wrapped around everything. I used to call it Yahweh, but I realized at the point of the eclipse that it's not Yahweh.
That's
Yahweh
just the tentacles.
is merely one of the tentacles. Yeah, exactly. And it's got all of these different tentacles. And I was able to see everything with perfect clarity for just a moment. I mean, this whole experience probably lasted maybe 5 minutes, even though the entire experience lasted about 2 hours. But this moment, pure moment of clarity, was so quick, but it was so profound that it made me question literally everything that I thought I knew. And I've gone back on a lot of different ideas that I used to talk about. I used to talk about all these different extraterrestrial races out there and so on and so forth. Back in 2011, 2012, we had the Palladian ambassador on. And I would say that one of the hallmarks of a true truth seeker, or somebody that's really walking a path, is their ability to go back and reevaluate all of the information and change their perspective based on new information. And this is something that I've always prided myself on, even though as the journey started progressing, I mean, even just political views and views about conspiracies and 9/11 and so on and so forth, anytime we would change our opinion about something, we would get ridiculed by these different boxes, these different groups, and these movements. That's the best way to describe it. And I started to realize that a lot of these movements, New Cage movement, Truther movement, so on and so forth, it's all nothing but self-policing systems to keep you trapped inside of that box. And if you break out of that box, then the rest of the crabs come running up to that other crab and start trying to pull them back in the bucket, pull them back in the bucket. And I allowed people to do this to me for so long, until finally I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to just speak my unadulterated truth. Screw what anybody thinks. I don't care if I offend anybody. I don't care if I piss people off. You know, if people are really friends, then they will remain friends. If they're not friends, then they'll separate, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, we introduced this whole flat earth thing onto TFR, which I think is a huge stepping stone in order to get to the next level, which is the artificial intelligence. I mean, artificial intelligence and computer simulation that we're living in. And the backlash that we got from that. And I just saw friends just completely just losing their minds over this. And all of them are all gone now. And I'm thinking in hindsight, like, had I allowed the groupthink, had I allowed the trolls, had I allowed the comments and people around me to dictate what we were going to talk about and what we weren't going to talk about, would we have the same type of revelations now? I don't think so. I think we would be stuck in those boxes, and we'd still be stuck in those traps. So as we move through this journey, it's perfectly fine to come up with new analysis, new hypothesis, and it's not even backtracking. It's looking at the same type of data, but looking at it from a much, much, much broader and newer perspective. So I'll give you an example, the flat earth material. The first thing that I thought as soon as I started looking into that is, okay, well, what does this do for extraterrestrials? What does this do for Anunnaki and all of this? And Mark Sargent, he said, look, it doesn't take away from any of that. It adds an entirely new dynamic to it. So if the Earth is a flat model, the Anunnaki could very well have come from another little pond that's right on the other side of the ice wall, for example. It doesn't mean you have to completely X all that out. But see, it created a whole new perspective on where these other beings started coming from. So likewise, as I started to progress on the ayahuasca journey and realizing that a lot of the beings that I was interacting with were actually elements of my own consciousness, they were just manifesting themselves as external beings because that's what I needed at that particular time. And I knew right early on in my journey that I would notice that I would see a lot of quote unquote demons. And I realized those demons were actually part of me. And it was only the realization that allowed me to conquer these demons was the realization that these were actually part of me and they weren't external forces and they weren't any of this. And so I took that same type of thinking and same philosophy into the quote unquote positive entities. And I realized that the first one was Isis. And I mean, we used to have Isis on everything. We've got her hanging up here behind us. Around my neck, I wear a little Egyptian symbol and so on and so forth. And what I realized is that at one point in time, she told me, I'm no longer going to be here in your experiences anymore. And I thought that she was leaving because she was going to go, help somebody else out. And we had come to another level. But then I realized what happened at that point is I merged with the divine feminine aspect of myself. And I wouldn't even call it merging. That's not a good word. I activated the divine feminine aspect of my consciousness. And so once I did that, then she left, not because she left, but because now I became the Isis and then Anubis. And I conquered that fear of death. I conquered that fear of the unknown on the other side. I took hold of where I'm going to go and how I'm going to gravitate once I leave this particular body. And once I fully understood that gnosis and I took hold of that gnosis and took that power, Anubis disappeared. Because now that part of my consciousness, the immortality and the gnosis that were forever, all became me now. And so I started activating one after another, after another, after another. And I realized after all of them were activated, then it becomes the raw, because the last one is that you realize you're the creator. And it's not the realization, it's the gnosis. Big difference, because a lot of people, they know they're creators, but they don't actually know they're creators. They don't have the gnosis. They KNOW know they're creators, but they don't GNOS gnosis know that they're creators. Once you come to that realization, then you become all of that. And it was, I feel like I got completely just fast forwarded and call it a level up, whatever. But I was just propelled to this level of gnosis because of that one event during the eclipse where I was able to stand outside and actually see this. It was like going through every grade in school all at one time in one moment and taking all that knowledge and just poof, injecting it into your consciousness. That's the way it felt. And coming back from it, I mean, it happened so quick, it happened so hard that it was hard to digest. And still, I mean, it's only been like 45 days and I'm still trying to understand it. I'm still trying to fully grasp what it is that I saw. But it was that one instance of being able to actually see what this thing is and what we are and what our consciousness is that just completely just changed the board. It changed the playing field. It's like, something came through and just knocked all the pieces off the board. And we're like, hey, all of these pieces are just an illusion. They're all part of you. Okay. Your weapons are part of you. Your bishop is part of you. Your pawns are part of you. Your queen is part of you. Your king, your rook, so on and so forth. It's all just one player and it's all us. And there was a sense of coldness that came over me when I realized this. And I thought, wait, so there's nothing out there except for organic consciousness and the artificial intelligence. So if that's the case, then I don't have anybody to call out to anymore. I've got to take the responsibility for myself. I've got to be my own warrior. And then I realized, wait a minute, it's not that it's devoid of all of these entities. It's that all of these entities are us. So anything that Horus can do, I can do, we can do. Anything that Thoth can do, we can do. Anything that Isis can do, we can do, because it's all part of us. So rather than calling it from outside, now we're calling it from inside. And
You know,
this has been incredible.
I've put that to the test. I've called to things and I'm like, why don't I hear you? And then I go in, like I close my eyes then and I'm like, hello. And then something activates in me and then it comes out. Like I light up and then it lights up. And I'm like, oh, hello. And it's like, well, we're right here. What is it? But I'm like, I feel like I'm activating something in a video game, right? Like I have powers and abilities separate from the character running on the screen. And at any time after I reach certain checkpoints, you know, I build up all these abilities and then you can like combine them and make them work together and all kinds of stuff. Because I know exactly what you're talking about. I told everyone at the beginning of my show, day one, and when I started talking about chakras, I said, I'm going to teach you guys over time what they are. And then I'm going to teach you how to get rid of them because you don't need them.
Right.
Right? Because you're never going to understand fully what they are until they all activate. This is how I see it as a shaman. Like I could see you as you're under. And I go, okay, those got to go activate before they go. You can't just rip them out. It's like taking someone too far into the other side of the pool when they really should just be like in the waist deep. Like you can show them, but you can't just rip it out of them. Not at first. You have to unlock it because they'll just be in the darkness, covered in layers of artificial intelligence after whatever entities you manifest and put in your own way. And then once they all activate, you're like, well, I could just do this. Like, what do I need these things for? Is this metal framework inside of my divine body? How'd these get here? Get them out. And I've ripped them out on 2 occasions. And I was told by one of the beings, stop doing that for now. And I asked, are these implants? And they said, yes, they are. I says, do they, even though I get awesome as I unlock them and I get gnosis as I unlock them, does it still allow them access to me? And they go, yep. I go, does it still allow them to take control at times of me? Yep.
They're like strings. They're like strings on a puppet.
Right.
This is
so
how
why do we need this? Right. But I can't teach you that until I teach you the whole thing. Right. Like you can't play the video game on the 9th level with the guy from the first board. Like when you first start the game, that guy can't go to level 9 immediately and start fighting the villains. They kill him in 2 seconds because he didn't build up to that. His gnosis wasn't there. Because truly what we're speaking about, knowledge is power, because we're actually the power. That would make you the battery, realizing that you're the battery of energy. And you're like, I don't really need anything at all. Because I am
emails of, hey, I tried the Ayahuasca guide and, you know, I had a great experience, but it was nothing close to what you're talking about and et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people want to have these experiences. But what people have to realize is that when you first come into this realm, you are loaded down with one AI program after another, after another, after another. And the first one to get deprogrammed is all of your traumas and things, guilt and things like that. And that's why a lot of people come to ayahuasca to deal with their own BS, their own crap, and then leave. And that's it. The journey just ends for them. And that's fine. I mean, if that's how they want to work with the plant. But in order to unlock the raw conscious, I mean, we didn't get programmed overnight. So we can't deprogram ourselves.
This took lifetimes.
Yeah, it's a lifetime thing. And so it's a lifetime path to get to these next levels and next levels and next levels, but you have to start somewhere. And so, you know, you have, you got bit by a dog when you were a kid, for example. And so now you react to a barking dog with fear. And that's a program. That's an AI program. Now that traumatic experience has programmed you to respond in a certain way. So you saw your father acting a certain way, or you saw your mother acting a certain way, or something like that. And then you start to echo these traits because that's the way that you were programmed as a child. You've got to unprogram all of this stuff before you can even come close to taking the next steps. So a lot of people have a lot of BS that they have to weed through, and it's okay. I mean, we have unlimited lives. That's what's good about this, is we have unlimited lives in this game to unprogram ourselves. But you know, we've got to start somewhere, and the more work people do, the more that they'll start leveling themselves up over and over and over again, instead of just being afraid of it and taking it once or twice and then walking away from it. It's not a magic potion. It's not a magic solution that you can say, here, drink this and all your problems just go away and now you're an enlightened being, et cetera, et cetera. But see, this is the reason why I'm so irked with the new cage programming. Is that this is what they tell you, that there's these portals that are going to open up and everybody's going to ascend and you don't have to do any work at all. You don't have to do anything and you're going to reach all these enlightened states, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile,
everything.
Yeah, that's an artificial intelligence program just programming you more and more and more. But you even look at religion. I was speaking to a friend who's Christian, and she wrote me on Facebook, and she said, Chris, why are you doing all this stuff? Why are you doing all this quote unquote inner work? Jesus already did it for you. Just live your life and enjoy. And my jaw just dropped on the floor going, are you serious? Are you freaking serious? No, nobody can do this for you. That's the thing. You know, we open up our show by saying raw consciousness doesn't need a savior, but rather raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. And, you know, it's very simple words that are said, but it's a very, very complex idea, because in order to get the power to access the raw consciousness, you have to deprogram yourself and you have to go through all the BS first. So it's a huge journey to get that power to access the raw consciousness, but nobody can save you. Frank can't save you. I can't save you. You have to save yourself.
People come to me and they go, I need this. And I'm like, I see tracks in your arm. When did you use last? No, I haven't been using. And I can just, one of my senses will go off. Sometimes it's my taste. And I'm like, you ate Xanax yesterday, didn't you? Do you think that the medicine's just going to take the drugs out of your system? Mm-hmm. Show you some cool stuff, maybe dance with you, tell you it loves you. And then when I say it tears things out of you, what do you think that means? When I say the interaction can kill you instantly and not be pleasant in any way on the way out. And they just look at me like, I need this. I'm like, this isn't a drug, dummy. This is medicine. This isn't like just taking a shot in the butt of penicillin. I could deal with this, or taking a bunch of Xanax and drinking a 40. This is not that at all. If you think you're going to sit back and relax, if you do sit back and relax, that's all you're going to get out of it. How's that sound?
Oh, so I had a heroin addict come up to me. There's a couple of people that live in our neighborhood, and they're heroin addicts, and we were sitting out on the boat, and he came up on the dock, and he was like, man, I need some of that stuff, man. I need some of that stuff. And I'm like, dude, first of all, I was thinking to myself, last time I gave you anything, you were on Suboxone and you didn't tell me about that. So you flat out lied. Yeah, flat out freaking lied to me. But second of all, that's what that dude was looking for DMT for. That's what he wanted it for, was like a fix. And I'm like, no. People have to come correct. That's the thing. This isn't, a lot of people will say, oh, well, you know, you're having drug experiences and blah, blah, blah. It's usually the new cage people that have no freaking balls whatsoever. And I have no
drug.
Yeah, I have no qualms about calling them out. I mean, I'll tell them to go F themselves to their face. I have no problem with that. And I don't think they know how to handle it, because they're like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. It's like, yeah, okay, this is something completely different here. Okay, we're talking about shit that works. We're talking about real here. We're not talking about sitting there and going, oh yeah, let me reach the state of enlightenment and so on and so forth and peace and blah, blah, blah. No, this is deprogramming yourself from the crap.
Well, and it's not like other drugs where, oh, you might get burned and it might not work and it might not do anything at all. And, oh, it's probably not going to do anything, you know, because I took Xanax yesterday, or because I've been drinking alcohol in the last couple of hours, or, oh, it's probably just not going to work. It's not like that at all. It takes basically all of your vulnerabilities and then highlights them to the fullest extent that it possibly can. And then you're stuck there for several hours, and it can not only be dangerous physically, but I think it's also, it's safe to say that it's dangerous spiritually and mentally as well, because if you've got someone that is not ready for this experience, then they're just not ready for it. There's nothing that they're going to be able to do to basically get you to believe that they're ready for it. And so I try
to explain it. If you think you're ready, it still grabs you by your ankles and just flings you into outer space, right? So what at any point makes you think that's fun?
Right.
Like you're here to, yeah, all right. So there's things that go on. But a lot of people that come to see me, I go, these one-shot times don't work. That only works on people like you and me that activate immediately. Like if people see nothing, they feel it. I go, you need 3 sessions minimum. And if you got the time, if you're willing to put that time into it, it's willing to do the work for you. And they usually leave me like, wow, with the whole, I'm awake. I broke through. It worked. And I'm like, yeah, because you put the work in. See how when I say, hey, drink this, you're going to need this cup. And they're like, well, I don't want a second cup. I'm like, drink, take the cup. You want to work? You want to do it? Or do you want to just go home and a failed attempt? And the people that go for it and stay and put in that work, I'm like, and that's what work is. It's when you're going to throw up more and you're holding on for dear life. And you're like, please I'm going to submit. Just be there for me and rescue me. And then boom, they're in. And I grab them by their arms and I go, look, while they're flopping around like I did, like a fish. I had 2 people come, and both times I had different actions that were very similar though. And where I was like, look, we did it. We're in. We pierced it in. We're both standing in the living room or sitting, but we're in the other side together. What color is that? What color is this? What color is this? We all agreed upon it. This is what it looks like. Okay, we're on the other side, or we brought it into the room with us, or we're in visiting one of the layers right there. And it's instantly, there's this release of, and I'm like, see, the work pays off. You put in that work, you get so much payoff.
Right.
Right? You don't put in any work, you stay in the black construct. Or if you're a little more woke, but you're still playing dummy, go have fun in the kindergarten area in 4D. Have fun over there floating in a box.
Well, I've noticed those are my most frustrating experiences is when I refuse to take that second dose or when I refuse to take enough of a first dose. And I'm right on that edge between, being in that realm and being here. And it's frustrating because I'm mad at myself for even taking it. And there's one part of me that's mad at me for taking it. And then the other part of me is mad at me for not taking enough. And it's like this inner battle that gets fought. I think a lot of people get stuck in that mode and then they walk away thinking, oh, well, it just didn't work for me. No, dummy. It's not that it didn't work for you. It's that you would not surrender enough to even do your part, which is very, very small, which is just drink it. That's all you are responsible for. And you can't even do that much.
Right. See, that's what I'm saying. Then you're not getting nothing.
Right.
You're only going to get a spoonful, if you're only going to sip it.
Right.
Right.
It'll never leave you flat. Right. Mm-hmm. But it'll put you somewhere or take its time with you. I've worked with people. They're like, I don't see. And I go, yeah, but when you eat 20 hits of acid, do you see? They're like, no. I'm like, well, there's something wrong with you. You're apparently frightened of something. And then it turns out people have deeper issues that they don't want to face while they're under. So they don't get to work that out, right? They put it in kindergarten.
A couple of other possibilities, psychopharmaceuticals, things like that. I was talking to one guy and he wasn't able to journey, and I was looking through his Facebook pictures and he was working in a factory, and I realized that he was working in a factory on aluminum pipes, and he had gotten aluminum stuff in his head. Thanks, but let's on our show.
That's right. We're gonna pick up where we're leaving off on Beyond the Veil next. And Chris, Sheree, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. True fearless individuals, guys. And we're taking this into the next realm.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Love you too.